Want to start streaming. Ah. Hey, I'm live. And I'm going to start this just like I did earlier by taking a drink of water. Hello, everyone. Here, let's make me go full screen so I can say hi properly. Here's what happens. Every time I start a job, while I'm doing the job, I think, wow, it'd be really great to be able to show people what I'm doing here. And then I can't because the footage is obviously owned by some studio or ad company or whoever the client is. So, and that can never go out. But here's an old job that I did. I wanted to show you. So let's do that and let's launch this. No, I don't want to do that. Okay, stop. Sometimes the Mac operating system is weird. Oftentimes it is. So here's this job I did, and there's this guy, and he's like, he's lifting his hands, and he's kind of holding some magical thing in between his hands. In this case, it's a magic teapot, which is obviously just some proxy. But I thought it would be nice to start recreating these shots that I've done. And so I thought this might make a good shot for that. Okay, so let's just dig right in. And the first thing I'm going to do is close this window. First thing I'm going to do is launch Synthesize. And I'm going to go script. And I'm going to do this just like I would do a normal shot, even though this shot defies a lot of rules of best practices. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a version 0. And to do a version 0, typically everything is somewhat automated for me. Let's actually try and do the full automation. Let's go to hands and let's open that. Show that in Finder. So we're going to just open that in a different Finder window. And so we have these shot folders, media, project files, etc. So I thought that I sorted this already. Apparently I did not. Okay. Apparently I'm not at all prepared to do this. Let's look at downloads and see what we've got here. So these were the frames that I downloaded that I meant to put in the media folder. So let's do that now. This is somewhat automated, so if I got a folder filled with EXR files, I would just drag that onto my little Make Projectors app that I made, and then it would just build out all the directory structure and everything, and sort everything. And then it would also make a Synthesize file for me in here. Let's make a folder called Synthesize, because we're going to need that. All right, so let's load the movie or image sequence I want to track. And we're going to go to shot folders. Oh, let's call this, let's rename that. Call it hands. And media plates. So it's a matter of choosing which one of these we're going to use. I think this one might be better. It's a little out of focus here in the beginning. It's a little out of focus for the entire shot. Not sure if I like that. This is in focus. All right, well, let's use this shot then. And we'll only use a section of that. So it's the second of the two. Again, I'm getting all of these from the website Pexels. So this is a 24 frame per second MP4. Very nice. Thank you for shooting that at a decent frame rate. We love that. And now we're going to follow the Cynthia instructions. So save scene ending with blah blah blah. So like I said, when I drag the files onto here, the Make Projectors, it automatically makes a properly named file with the file extension, so I just double click on it. But in this case, I'm gonna have to do a little typing. So track underscore v00 dash, whoops, dash 00. And then ordinarily I'd be working with EXR files. And so with the EXR files, they're big and they're a little more clunky to work with. So we always make in advance ProRes 422 QuickTimes as proxies, or EXR using DWAB compression, which is, you know, compresses very heavily, but it looks nice. So I'm going to hit OK on that. And I'm just going to replace it with itself. And what that does primarily is just check the frame lengths. So does the EXR sequence equal the length of the QuickTime movie that I made as the proxy? If it doesn't, then Synthesize will complain and it would break. But everything's fine. So version 0 script complete. And so we have our version 0 script, and it actually already up versioned to version 1. So that's nice. Let's exit out of Cynthia. And let's just do some tracking here. Now, do we want to track the camera? I think tracking the camera is probably a good idea. Yeah, let's just do that. And to do that, I'm going to do our little cool new roto masking feature. And we're going to do mask ML. Come on, mask ML. This may take 10 to 30 seconds. Good, that's enough time for me to take a drink. No one has joined me for this live stream yet, so I am talking to myself. Current layer, layer 1. Yeah, this is fine. And then let's just go plus, and we're going to tap on that guy. We're going to tap here. That looks pretty good. I don't see any holes. Let's write the current layer, right? Is that what we do? Loading the mask propagation model. This has to be one of the game-changing features of the latest Synthesize, and it is pretty great not having to draw splines and track them or any silliness like that. All right, this is a 594 frame shot, so we're going to be here for a minute and a half. I might have another drink. Our mask is holding up pretty well. I'm not going to track the whole shot. I probably should have chosen what frames I was going to do this with to begin with. I feel like there were a lot of widths in that run-on sentence. Anyway, I'm keeping my eye over on the YouTube thing. I'm also going to switch into full screen mode for a second, full screen camera, and just check, am I in focus? I think I'm in focus. I don't have zebra stripes to be able to tell, so let's turn off. So let's go back to screen right clean, or with me in the lower left. Great. So look, our alpha channel is awesome. Yeah, that's neat. Love it. And then, of course, you can click on alpha and look at what the alpha looks like. And if you get in here really closely, you'll see that the alpha is either white or black. So the black is a garbage mask, so it's holding out features. Does that make sense to me? That this is, I feel like white should be, yeah, white is include. Yeah, this makes sense to me. Never mind. All right, enough of that. I'm going to close this. And I'm going to turn off alpha. And I'm going to turn the alpha, or the opacity all the way up to 100%. So you get this little slider. This is nice to be able to dial in like just what you want there. 8 to go full screen. And we're just going to do a camera track, but I'm not going to do the whole shot. So we're going to just try and do like from here, like we'll start at frame 375. And if I hold down the shift key at the very beginning of the shot and go forward to 375 or so, 374, good enough. 374, and we're going to go to, I don't know, frame 544. Great. Perfect. So I just held down the shift key, clicked, and dragged. Hey, welcome back. Every time I see the name Xander, I can't help but think of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Sorry, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for you. I don't know if you're going to disconnect now, like, you're blocked. But I think his name was spelled with an X, though. Maybe. I don't remember. Anyway, all right, let's make that scale our frame range. So these are just the frames we're going to be using. I'm just going to try and do a camera track for this. There's a little bit of parallax between the tree and the background. And so for that, I'm going to add a few manual trackers first. I always do that. A few supervised trackers. I never use this button. Always hold down the C key and I just click a tracker into existence. C click. And I'm going to do that. And I'm going to go, let's make these, I don't know, 8 and 8. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm going to hold down the D key because I think it's just going to hold on until right about here. Click to make that one last keyframe. And then when his head starts to peek in, you start to see the pixels change. I'm going to make one more keyframe, but here I'm shutting it off. All right, good. And that tracker is really going to do a lot of parallax heavy lifting for us. And I'm going to make another tracker, I don't know, here, how about right there? That's good. I'm going to hold down the D key again. Great. Yeah, these are easy trackers, easy things to track. Now we want to spread out our trackers not just across the screen, but also in 3D space. Make this tracker just a tiny bit bigger and a search area a tiny bit smaller. And I'm going to be drinking water whilst I do this. But it's already done. So let's we'll do a little quick review of our tracker, make sure it doesn't have any spikes or jumps in it. No, it doesn't. And I can see the spikes and jumps in it if I keep my eye on the tracker trails, which you can see drawn very clearly here. So I don't need to bring up a graph editor to do it, although my scene already has a graph editor at the very bottom. It's currently in tracks. Oh no, it is in graphs mode. It's in graphs mode. I could put the, U velocity and whatnot in there, and also do a, what is this? Reset all channel zooms and reset times axis. There you go. So, and turn off the colors, but I don't see any spikes in there, so we're all good. And we'll leave the colors on. Let's close that and deselect our tracker. So, and drag this back down because I don't need all of that. I only like the graphs mode to show me that I have the, an adequate number of trackers. So let's try and get some more parallax action happening. I think we're going to select this tracker and drop it. C-click right here. Shrink the tracker a little bit and shrink the search area even more. And hold on the D key once again. All right, great. Plus, that's good. To lock, plus on the numeric keypad. All right, so this looks pretty good. I think what I want, yeah, I'm going to wait for his hand to get right about here. I'm going to add another tracker right there. We'll see how well that holds on. I'm going to hold on, I'm going to click 5. Let's go all the way back to the beginning and see how well we hold on to that. Synthesize once again does a bang up job of tracking a feature. So that's probably a good place to start. You know what? I've got one more that I'm going to do. Actually, two more. One right here. Let's make this a little bigger. And it's going to get occluded by our actor, our Tai Chi specialist, whose name I don't know. The guy's doing Tai Chi in this. This was, again, right off of Pexels. So, great. And then one more. And the reason I'm doing these, because I'm going to click the auto button in a moment. I'm actually going to manually do the auto function. Turn it off there. Good. And let's just make sure we stayed on target, and we did. All right, good. Good enough. I'm going to go into features, hit the 8 key again. I'm going to look at advanced. I'm going to say auto blip, set this to 8 and set this to 16. This looks like it's probably good blip coverage for the background. Okay, let's do blips all frames. I'm really doing these things because sometimes it's just too fast. I can't even get time to take a little drink. All right, that's great. How many frames do we have here? 375, let's do 200 frame. So I'm going to turn this up a bit. I'm going to turn this up to, I don't know, 200. And I'm going to say peel all. And we can start seeing some of our new trackers showing up. Let's clear all blips. We're not going to use those again. There are reasons to not clear all blips. That looks pretty good. One, as I've shown before, if you turn off in the display here, show image, it can give you an idea of like how many blips you have covering the frame. Like at the very end here, it's like just drops off to nothing. That's a little wild, a little concerning. Nevertheless, let's go turn show image back on. I'm going to turn this up to 12 and 20 and go blips all frames. And I like having more tracked features. Let's peel all again. And now we get bigger trackers. So turning off show image and clearing all the blips. Let's move this over a little bit. There are obviously some goofy things going on in here, like whatever this is. But, and then some features like got double tracked. So they got tracked at the 8 and 16, and then some got tracked at the 12 and 20. And so we'll be able to fix that in a bit. But did all the trackers shut off? Okay, good. So only the little trackers shut off. So our big trackers held on. Let's turn on show image again, and I see what's going on. This is what that goofy tracker. Yeah. All right. So let's get rid of both of those. Delete. And I don't think we need the advanced feature control anymore. What's our camera generally doing? Our camera is generally moving physically to the left, is translating to the left, while it is panning slightly to the right and tilting barely up and down. But that being the case, I'm going to go to solver. I'm going to say, did I say we were moving left? I did. So you can tell, I mean, like, just look at the tree here and then look at the stuff in the background. And so you can see that we're revealing more of the background behind the tree. And to do that, the camera has to be moving left. So I'm giving it, these are just hints. Synthesize can often just do this without any hints, but I'm going to give it a hint. Fixed unknown, this is all fine. I'm going to hit go, see what happens. This may or may not be particularly good, and it may not be a representation of actual reality. Okay, so there is a bunch of trackers in here that are bad. This one, it looks like it's a guy maybe in the background, really out of focus, pushing some kind of cart. That's going to throw things off. Let's delete that tracker because we know that's going to be, you know, problematic. There are all kinds of trackers in here with high frequency noise, but we're not going to worry about those. So let's get rid of that guy first, and I'm just going to hit Shift G to redo the solve, and there we go. So our error is 1.13 HPix. I think that the footage itself is, how big is this? 2560 by 1440. So 1 HPix is tracking God in action. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I hardly consider myself a tracking God. That's like, I don't know. I would much rather be better at other things. I'll just say that. There are other creative endeavors I would gladly be better at. I'd also like to get better at chess. My chess game is getting better, but it's not where I want it to be. Okay, I think we're good here. Let's do Shift G one more time. Whoops, I didn't want that. Shift F, I did not want to hit Shift F. Shift G, and that's just gonna redo the solve. And we're solving from scratch every time. So we're not doing refined solves at this point. Oh wow, look at our HPix just jumped up to like 5,000. And what you have to understand about Synthesize is that you could run this on your, like I'm running this on a Mac, M1 Mac. But if you ran this on a machine with an AMD processor, you'll get different results. It's by design. That's just how Synthesize is designed. It's like fuzzier logic than having just a flow chart. If this takes too long, I'm just going to go back and refine the solve. Yeah, see? When you see that kind of thing, typically that means there will be a problem, some kind of issue in the scene that will have to do with bad tracker, could be a bad constraint, could be, who knows. HPix, 32,000 pixels. That would be, that'd be a bit of a disaster, I think. Okay, so when this kind of thing happens and it just kind of keeps going and our progress bar doesn't seem to be improving, I'm going to hit cancel. And I'm going to cancel again. I'm going to switch this to refine mode and just hit go. So our HPix is back to 1.1077. Anytime I am in the beginning stages of like deleting bad trackers and that kind of thing, I like to not do refine solves. But So if we look at our trackers though, the trackers on the tree, like this one and this one, if you look at those trackers, you see that there's parallax between them and the trackers in the background, and that's pretty great. So I'm fairly confident that this track is good. Nevertheless, let's go clean up trackers. Bad frames, disable. I wish I could make that the default. Fix, refine, go. Let's see if we get our HPix is now in the green. It's below 1 pixel. When you're doing a mix of auto and supervised trackers, do you ever weight the supervised trackers higher than the autos, or is there a reason not to do that? I generally do not do that. The only time you really want to deal with weighting trackers, like this tracker right here, and you can put a, let's go to the trackers room, otherwise you can't do anything. That weight is keyframeable. So I am telling it that, first of all, this is a tracker that I created. And those are the ones I will put weight on before I really deal with the auto trackers. And sometimes I will be tracking things that are invisible or like impossible to track, like super motion blurred and that. And so I'll keyframe the weight of the tracker, the weight being how much it is considered in the solution. And I'll keyframe that and like lower its weight at times and increase its weight at other times. I only do that on the most difficult tracks. So I don't do it very often, but without it, sometimes shots would not be possible to be tracked. All right, we're pretty good here. Now, like I said earlier, we've got some trackers that are like double trackers. Like we tracked them at different sizes, like blip sizes. Hopefully that answered your question. Did that answer your question? I will take more questions. And let's go track coalesce nearby trackers, because we'll see if we can get rid of some of those double trackers. We don't want only with non-overlapping frame ranges. I don't care if the frame ranges overlap. If they're in the same place, I want them merged. So 41 trackers. That's pretty good. Let's coalesce those. Great. And now let's Shift G again. And our HPix error is 0.8723. I love it. We're good. Okay. Good, I'm glad that answered that question. All right, so I only wanted a camera track here because, you know, if you're doing an object track within the space of a moving camera, then obviously track the camera first. It'll often help having the lens, this focal length, by the way. The focal lengths don't matter, and they're really useless because of focal length, like, depending on the aperture size or sensor size of the camera, that 50 millimeter lens will have a different field of view. So field of view is really all that matters. I should share this, but I'm going to do it right now. Here. I'll put this in the links. Let's go to Firefox. Oh, I already have Firefox open. Let's open a new tab and let's bring it over here. And let's go to Sheets. Here, you know, I'm going to drag this over here so I don't bring up like secret Google spreadsheets. Sheets, Google Sheets, and then lens stuff. Here we go. Okay, good. Anyway, I don't really have any secret Google spreadsheets, but I made this a long time ago, and you need 3 things to calculate the field of view, the sensor, and or the focal length. And so if I change the field of view in this field to, I don't know, 40 degrees, so 40 degree field of view, you'll see that the focal length changes here. If I change this to a 25 degree field of view, hey, why, hold on a second. Sometimes OBS goes crazy and it like switches me to a different scene. That is not what I wanted. Anyway, so I can calculate the focal length with these two values. Or here's the sensor width calculator. So I can say, no, my horizontal field of view is 25 and my focal length is going to be 61. And you'll see that now these are 27. You need all three. So if you ever get notes from on set, sometimes people will be like, this has a 75 millimeter lens. And you're like, that's not helpful. It's not helpful because I don't know the sensor width. So your camera reports should contain the camera body, the shooting resolution, and the lens. I think certain numbers might be hotkeys. That could be. Thank you. I'm going to review my hotkeys and I'm going to disable switching these because that's a problem. Anyway, this is useful. I'm going to put a link to this spreadsheet that I created in the notes for this video, and then share this, send it to other people. I also put in the math equations here. So sensor width equals 2 times the field of view times the tangent of the field of view divided by 2. And the field of view is in radians. And then, it's all kind of documented fairly well. Let's go back to the shot and let's get to doing what we were doing. This all started, by the way, let's review. Let's go back to my Finder window. And desktop, where's the desktop? There it is. So there was this shot that I did ages ago with this guy, who's in a lab somewhere, and he's, doing this, holding some magical thing in space. So in Synthesize, how do you track something that's not there? How do you put something out in space? And that's what we're going to do here with this guy. So to do that, we're going to need to get rid of our alpha channel. We're going to go back to the trackers room, and we are going to put in an object. And it's going to be, I don't know, let's make in the 3D room, let's make oh goodness, why is there some crazy tracker right there? What is that? Oh, it's just some errant crazy tracker. So let's get rid of that. It's just moving around. You can see it down here. Like, what is that tracking? Where did it even go? Oh, there it is. Let's hit the 5 key so we can stay centered on it. So this is something that, here's a suggestion I have. So when you get into rotomasking and you use these like Mask ML masks, there should be a grow mask right here. Like, grow the mask by 2 pixels. Because I shouldn't be picking that up. If that's my alpha channel, that tracker should not have been picked up. All right. Anyway, just grow the mask slightly. So I don't see any controls for that. Show live mask. Yep, no, I see nothing. Anyway, and all that's going to mean is our track now should be better. If I hit Shift G again. Excellent. Okay. let's go back to this, just gathering my thoughts. Now, we are going to put a bar. We're going to put like a cylinder. Let's do that. Just make a cylinder. Let's view, show image. And let's right click on Pan 2D to do that. Edit, scene settings. Ordinarily, okay, so let's do this properly. Let's do this like we do a real scene and not just some dumb tutorial. Best practices, etc. So I have my Earthling, so generic man relaxed. I use this guy all the time. I'm going to make him 180 centimeters tall. Oops, I hit the space lock, caps lock instead of tab. All right, there. So our guy is appropriate. Let's right click and go 3D. Whole effects meshes is off. Just double checking. Let's make our guy white. The wireframe. And we're going to scale this whole scene up so that we're basically, what we want is for a 3D guy to be roughly the correct height. So that looks good. No high frequency noise in the foreground. I love it. And let's orbit the camera around a bit so that, you know, our guy's facing kind of generally in the same direction. Because why not? Because we can. Let's do that. These points that are on the ground, though, so let's scale this again, but now I'm going to scale it from his head, and I'm going to scale these points down onto the ground. And let's go to scale mode again. So all these ways of scaling. So anytime you scale or rotate, anywhere you click on screen, it's going to rotate around that point where you clicked. Anywhere you scale, it's going to scale around that point where you clicked. So if I want to scale around his head, it's not a 3D locator, though. I mean, that's the one thing that's great about Blender. Again, I keep talking about Blender. But the 3D cursor, like you could scale it from the 3D cursor and place that out in space somewhere. But be that all as it may, our guy's generally in the right place now. He's generally the right scale. And, oh, by the way, this is why I brought this up. This scales everything out from the camera. That's why when I'm scaling, you don't see anything changing out in space in the perspective view down here. Those are all just good things to know. All right, great. So now our scene is generally the right scale, I think. Roughly. I'm going to do a little bit more tweaking here. Bear with me. It's not perfect, but I'm going to call this good enough. There's some other trackers in here that I know aren't going to be correct just because the way that they're... where's that tracker? It's down here in the lower screen right. That's... we can delete that. How about this one? This one is only on for a few frames. That's also not in a terribly great position. These are probably all not great either. I'm just going to delete those. All right, so I'm going to call this good enough. Because we're just putting a magical wand between his two hands. All right, good. let's hide, or not hide, but collapse all those trackers. I'm going to lock our guy in place, and we're going to get to work on the hands. Let's hide the generic man. And we're going to have to do some manual tracking. So I forgot. I'm sorry. We were going to put a bar in there. That's right. Cylinder. Let's drag a cylinder out like that. Let's right click on Pan 2D. And I'm just going to move this around. So we'll call this like 10 and 10. No, that's not what I wanted. My apologies. I meant to do this. 10 and 10. And let's make it, I don't know, 50 centimeters. 50 centimeters is probably too big. Let's turn our generic man back on so we generally can tell where things should be in space. All right, let's scale this whole thing down a bit like that. And lift that up. Now, what I want to do, I don't want it to touch his fingers. I want him to be magically holding the bar between his hands as though each hand has an influence over the bar. Now let's see if I can do that. I make no promises. 2 and 2. And let's make this 15. Yeah, that's good. Okay, good enough. I'm going to leave that green too so we can see it better. So it's generally in the right place. I feel like it wants to be in space a little further back, like in here somewhere. Actually, it would be more out in front of him, wouldn't it? Like that in front of our white wireframe guy. So yeah, I think this is probably good. You can click on the little gnomon things here in the viewport and move it around. So that's also nice. And you can rotate it using the gnomons. If you hold on the control key, you can rotate that thing around. Now, we're going to go into the GeoH room, because that's what all this is about these days. GeoH tracking, GeoH toolbar. I'm going to GeoH create. I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm just going to click. And when I do that, it's going to place an object right in the middle of our cylinder. So that's cool. Right where we clicked. And yeah, pretty good. Not bad. Now, I made that object on frame 394. That probably wasn't so great. Let's go back into the GeoH room. So you can see here where I made the tracker, or where I made it, there's a keyframe there. And if I click key, nothing will happen, but there are keyframes on everything. So if I turn off this key, which is the pattern keyframe, which remember, you can use geometry as the tracker. I'm going to right click, right click, right click, right click, right click, right click. Now, so I've zeroed out all of those things. So it no longer has a keyframe there. Let's make a keyframe on this frame. So it'll have a keyframe on frame 0 or frame 374, our first frame. I'm going to go more deeply into this, but this tracker, so these values, 0, 0, 0, well, obviously that object is not at 0, 0, 0. It's at these 3D values here. So it's almost like in the GeoH room, there's a starting place that is 0, 0, 0. And then everything is calculated after the fact. Okay. So let's go back to, yeah, I gotta look into the OBS numbers. But I'm gonna do some supervised tracking now. Finally, jeez, get on with it, man. All right, let's make a tracker, and let's first of all audition what we're gonna track. So what should we track? I think if we track, you can see like in his palm here, there's like a little wrinkle, a divot. There we go. Should be able to see it on screen more, but you can see that. I think we can track that. That'll be something good to track. I'll start back on frame 374. And I'm going to click our tracker into place there. And let's make our tracker a little bigger. And I'm going to make this key, let's do 4 and 4. I didn't touch anything that time, and it switched me to the full screen camera. It's a good thing I have good peripheral vision. All right, so let's track. Okay, let's get our mouse up here. I'm gonna hold on the D key. I think I'll probably, oh, look at that. Synthesizer is so good. I love it. That tracker's great, and it's done. 4 is the switch to your face hotkey. 4? 4 key? No. That wasn't it. 4 is my quad perspective view. But no, that wasn't it. How about 4 here? No, that's not it either. Oh, wait, no, that, here, screen, right, me, lower left. 4, oh, the numeric keypad. Yeah, I've got to clear all those out of there. That's a nightmare. But thank you. Thank you for switching that. It is, or for telling me about that. The 4 key is, on the numeric keypad, is in fact what is doing that. Jeepers creepers. Okay. Well, we tracked that, so let's track another one. Let's go back over here. Let's hide our generic man relaxed. What are we going to track this time? I think we could track this. But because our key now on key smooth is set to 4, it will redefine the pattern. And so that's pretty great. Yeah, I love it. Oh, that's so good. Look at that. Synthesize once again, killing it with the 2D tracker. This is why I don't want to ever use 3D equalizer, because it's not great. Okay, so now what do we do? Well, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to go back to the GeoH track room, and we're going to select this tracker. So you can do that even in this viewport by selecting lasso trackers and just clicking. And we're going to say place. I'm going to place that tracker right here on our magic bar. It's going to float around in space. We have to go lasso trackers again. I'm going to click on this tracker, and I'm going to go place, and I'm going to place that right here. Brilliant. I love it. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to our object, which again, in this hierarchy view, I cannot select it. That's a bug. Look, I click, nothing happens. Yet, in this hierarchy view, I click it and it's selected. So if I'll click on the camera up here. The camera is selected up here. And now I'm going to click on the object, And the object gets selected in this hierarchy view, but it doesn't get highlight here. So that's kind of it's a bug, but it's like a user interface, like feedback type of bug. All right, anyway, enough of that. Let's shrink this hierarchy view over a little and keep them both up. Okay, so where were we? We're going to our object. And our object here, which doesn't highlight, I am going to unclick key, and I'm going to, let's start moving things around. So this is the x-axis. This is the object's x-axis. So everything that it is solving on its own axis. Local coordinate system. Let's go to quad perspective here, just so we can see what is happening from these different views. So as I move this on the X, the object was built on that, but the camera is located looking into the scene on an angle. So you have to know that. If you want to solve for the object's position, you do need to have all the 3D trackers that you would have if you were doing a normal 3D track. So some of this you're going to have to, or I'm going to have to, manually position. All right, well, let's go here and and then Y is going to be up and down, so we're going to do that too. And Z is going to be this way and this way. So I'm going to unlock X, Y, and Z. And let's see what happens here. Oh, this is important. Remember when we made those two last trackers? They're going to be all the way down at the bottom here. So there's this tracker and this tracker. Yeah, both of those need to be on the object. So you need to drag those onto the object, or they will not work, because you're using the trackers to drive your track. So let's go back to the object. Grab the wrong thing there. There we go. Shrink that up and reselect our object. There we go. So I just clicked the key and then I unclicked it, and now Synthesize is calculating. So let's just play forward, and we can see that it is using both trackers, 408 and 409, and it's basically giving us an average between the two trackers. So that's pretty cool. These out here, these big giant triangles that are facing, like, I don't know, toward each other, those are the solved positions of those points, but we can't really, we're not going to be able to create a point cloud because we don't have enough trackers. But this is basically our 2 points point cloud. Those 2 points are now moving around in space, and our object is moving around, and the mesh is parented to it. But we want to rotate the thing too, so let's click pan and, oops, hold on, let's make sure we're on the right frame. These are keyframeable, so you can activate when you want to activate the solver for pan, tilt, and roll. Let's do tilt. So tilt is going to be that, and we don't want tilt to be solving, but we do want roll to be solving, I think. There we go. I'm going to hide those 2 trackers because all I want to see is the object. Actually, you know what? I think we do need to have tilt. Okay, this is not happening. So this isn't... We have problems here. So what is the problem? Let's go back here. Let us click keyframe. Let's turn off pan, tilt, and roll, and let's zero these out again. And then I'm going to double click on key just to kind of get our track happening in the right space. So we want this tracker, the object, to be solving on a plane that's more planar to camera. So I'm going to, in this view, now we're getting into like some esoteric stuff, and I haven't done this in a while. So you're going to see me making mistakes, and it's great. Let's see here. There's edit pivots and E. Oh, come on, baby. I want to select the object. Nope. Nope. There we go. Let's rotate this more like that. Minus 45. GeoH track key. So yeah, that is not how we do that. We don't do it with edit pivots. We do it with there we go. We're going to leave it like that. And now we're going to calculate tilt and roll only. Cross your fingers, folks. Okay, it's better. It's not great. Okay, so let's not calculate Z. I'm going to put that right there. Okay, let's try that. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Kind of, sort of. Let's look at the top view and see what we're doing. So we are calculating only on the X. Let's do Z as well. There's a key there. I don't want that. So GeoH tracking is a little finicky because I can see that there's a keyframe here. If I look in the time view, I did it again. Screen, me, lower left. Totally flipped again. I'm not even hitting the 4 key. That's gotta be. I gotta fix that. But the reason that I did this intentionally this way. Oh, I see what's going on. I've turned off Z there. That's it. I did this intentionally this way to illustrate this point. By rotating the camera around and looking at the orientation of our object in GeoH mode and making it be off axis, this is where I get a little confused by the GeoH tracker, because I feel like with tilt, roll, and pan, let's, I'm going to turn pan back off again. There we go. I feel like I should be getting more rotation between his fingertips based on my two trackers and their seed positions. So when I look at those two trackers, which I've hidden, but these two trackers have these seed positions here and here, and the GeoH tracker should be trying harder to match our 2D trackers to those seed positions. And that's where I'm a little confused. But I'll just keep going. We'll keep plugging away. Yeah. Oh, here's the one other thing I can do. Edit scene settings. Let's make our tracker size much smaller. That means our background trackers are going to be microscopic, but that's okay. Yeah. So back in the GeoH room, let's deselect Y and Z again. And now I've given it free rein to kind of calculate any way it wants to, and it's not really drawing a line between those two seed points like I feel like it should be, and doing a best fit in the solve. Okay, well, be all that as it may. Truthfully speaking, let's grab 409 and tracker 409, which is the one on his the lower hand. I'm going to put that in the little folder cam, which I demonstrated in our last video. That little camera I create that just acts as like a dummy holder place. If I do this, and we go back in the GeoH room, we are now there. Select the object. Great. Key. And I'm going to lock all of these things. That's not what I wanted. There we go. So yeah, that's going a little bananas. And it all has to do with the orientation that in which I created my original tracker, my original object. So let's do this again, but I'm going to just show you how to fix it. I'm going to put this up in our folder cam. I'm going to take this cylinder and I'm going to go back to this frame here. I'm going to unparent it just by dragging it out. And in the 3D room, we'll now rotate. Just right click on all of those. And I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. So not quite 45 degrees. But now that I've rotated the object 45 degrees, we also don't need this object anymore, so I can delete that. That no longer has any children. Lock that. Okay, so now I'm going to, back in the GeoH room, GeoH toolbar, GeoH create. Oh, did I turn it off? Didn't mean that. GeoH create. Now I'm going to hold down the shift key again, and I'm just going to drag that right there. Brilliant. So now if I move that on the x-axis, now it's moving somewhat perpendicular to camera. Let's zoom out a little. And now I'm going to take my two trackers and I'm going to drag those back over to our object. And we're going to give it new seeds. We're going to say place tracker 408, which is that. We're going to place that right there. And 409, we're going to place that right there. Cool. Back at the object. The roll now is this axis. So if we can now keyframe on the X, so that's going to be X, and then that's going to be Y. So we're going to only solve in the X and Y, and we're going to also select roll, or solve the roll. I'm going to click key there, and now let's watch this. And it's like magic. Now it works perfectly. So these are the pitfalls that you need to avoid when doing GeoH tracking. Our post probably, this guy should probably be shorter. Let's make him a little, like 10 centimeters. And let's physically move the mesh in between his hands more, like that. And we'll make this 1 centimeter and 10 and 1. There, that's better. So there, now it's magically floating exactly in between his hands using the average of all those trackers. But if you create your initial position for your GeoH object, you're going to have all those problems that I showed you earlier. And there's really not going to be a lot you're going to be able to do to fix it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and like figure out how to overcome that problem. How to I'm going to try and figure out how to fix it so that you can start from anywhere and go, oh, how do I fix this without tearing everything apart and putting it all back into place. This would have been, by the way, the much better way of solving that, here, wait, there we go, of solving that shot that I showed you earlier, that where is it? Oh, apparently I closed everything. Desktop, this shot. This would have been the much better way to solve this, because then I would have had like an actual thing in space between his hands. And I'm going to show you one more thing. That you absolutely have to know about GeoH tracking. So great, we have this. But it's, you know, the entire time it's keeping generally the same distance from camera. So if we select our object and you look at this dist right here, you can also keyframe that distance. So if I turn that off and lock it, actually what? So this distance is 117.6. So if I keyframe that, we're going to call this 117. Just keyframe that right there. unkey those. And if I keep that distance keyframed at 117, it's going to try and keep that distance the entire time. But if I'm at the last frame here, and I keyframe the distance up to like 157, oh, I thought that would do something entirely different. But it didn't. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. We're going to go back over here and I'm going to zero these out. I'm going to zero that out too. Okay, great. But I do want to show you this. So there is a button in the GeoH track floating menu. It's called Update Adjust Rig. And with that selected, I can click and drag here, and it's going to make keyframes. So I'm going to hit key there, and it's going to make keyframes for those. But when we get to here, with adjust rig on, if I don't want to use scale, let's use W. I'm going to move that out, like somewhere out here. And then when it comes back, let's click the keyframe. So we'll make a keyframe there. And so now if I hit the space bar, you're going to notice that the object now travels on this curve. There's a little bit of a hiccup right at that point. But let's unkeyframe that and keyframe again. And that will get rid of our little hiccup in there. There we go. So you can absolutely mix hand keyframing with this methodology. And that's really important. That's really important to know. So you can do that. Like I can like on that frame where I put that keyframe, let's unkey that. And you can also turn off a channel. So let's create a keyframe there, and then you want to keyframe it first, and then you want to disable the channel. So the y-axis, the up and down axis, when you hit that frame, it's no longer going to solve for that. Let's get rid of those keyframes too, please. You'll notice more high frequency noise enters as well because it's really trying to hold on. Now there are lots of problems with the GeoH tracker. Some of them, like just in terms of figuring this stuff out, if you don't know like what I showed you about rotating things so that it's like perpendicular to camera, and you're always solving within the local coordinate system, it becomes really confusing a lot of the time, at least to me. So there's that. Some of these principles, by the way, also apply to the camera tracker. And then if you get into the solver and you look at these axis locks, left, right, front, back, up, down, pan, tilt, roll, frankly, I think those should be named, X, like rotate X, rotate Y, rotate Z. Be that as it may, these are also like coordinate system dependent, and but I have another video that I'm planning on doing. I have to shoot some footage for it though to properly simulate it, or properly show it. And it's going to use all of these axis locks. But for the time being, I think that kind of gives you a better idea of like what is possible with the GeoH tracker. If these hands were moving really fast, that object would calculate really fast, and it would move very quickly, and it would track really well. So there you go. That's it for this. Oh, that's the wrong screen. Here, how about that screen? There you go. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to keep doing these from time to time. And it's really, like I said, I wish that there were times where while I was doing a shot, I could just show people, yeah, this is how I do this. And so this is a great example of that. If anybody has any questions, put them in the comments. I'll see about answering them either in a future video or I'll answer them in the comments. And then I hope everybody is having a great day. And I guess I'll end the stream now. All right, bye.